What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the very, very first edition of Spike Week Football Show. Maybe we'll work on the name, but for now, I mean, it pretty much covers everything that we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking about just the news of the NFL. We're going to be talking about fantasy, and we're just going to kind of be kicking it. That's kind of the game plan for this show. So a little bit of a lounge atmosphere to say until we get into this segment that I have in about 20 minutes that Erik has no idea about. Anyways, Erik, how's your day going?
It's an interesting day. I'm excited. I'm excited for the show. I'm excited for you. First of all, shout out to you, Rob Coakley at King Coakley, for joining us and gracing us with your presence. But I'm excited. You know, I've done so many of these streams as it relates to like fantasy football, and so many when I was kind of getting everything up and running, like so many by myself, and I'm hosting and all of that. Now I'm just like, then I got myself a drink. I'm just sitting here, like you said, ready to lounge and just talk NFL and let you kind of run the show. So I'm pumped. I'm giving a warning. I'm in the Midwest. I don't know how the weather is out by you. We had the freaking ice storm that started last night and has gone through. It's supposed to go for like the next 48 hours. My lights have been flickering today during the day. So like if I just fall out, you know what happened? Like my house is collapsing on me from the ice storm or something.
And then I own Spike Week.
Yeah, for the rest of my life. That's what you got in at the right time, right before the storm.
So I don't know. We'll see what I'm actually rooting for here.
Yeah.
But so you're all excited and everything, and I'm over here freaking out because non-football talk. I have my other show, obviously, that I stream on Tuesday nights, and I knew I had the Spike Week show coming. So as I was driving home from a job that I am ending at the end of this week, which I'm excited about, I was like, hey, you know what I should do today that I haven't done in a long time? I went to the barber. And now, not only did the barber ruin my beard, I also look like a dirty thumb, and I'm very upset about it. And dude, I was in this barber chair, okay? And I'm sitting there, and do you go to the barber still, or do you do your own stuff?
I'm buzz cut. I just buzz my own hair. Been doing it for a long time now.
Yeah, so that's what I've been doing, but I wanted to look nice and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm in the chair, and he's doing my head, and then all of a sudden my eyes are closed because I'm just hanging, and I just feel zzz, and the dude just starts shaving my eyebrows, and I'm like, what in the fuck? What are we doing here? So I had a very bad experience yesterday, but we're here. We're ready to go.
We made it. Is that why you got are you one of the, so you see, I'm always wearing a hat.
I'm a hat guy.
Okay.
I'm a hat guy, but I've decided it's the winter in New England, so I'm allowed to wear beanies. And every fantasy football show, no offense, is white guy backwards hat. Yep. So I was like, I need to do something different until I conform, which will be soon probably.
Which will be a few more weeks, and you'll show up with the backwards hat.
It's already on the table, ready.
Exactly. You're ready, just in case you're not feeling comfortable in a half hour. You have a hat right. Ready. I feel I would feel naked. I've done it a couple times without a hat on for shows. It's like once you get into the just routine of having a hat on, you feel absolutely naked on a stream without a hat. I even feel uncomfortable wearing a hat forward. Like I've tried it, and you'll see it midstream. I'll spin it around. I don't know what it is about starting, like you said, white guy fantasy football stream. You have to have a backwards hat on. It's like it just becomes a part of you.
Yeah, it just you become, when you fully become an Avenger, you have to wear the backwards hat.
Right.
All right, so I think there's 3 big news stories in the NFL this week that we should probably hit on. And I'll let you take a pick on what you think is the most important, and we should start
Okay.
off with. It's obviously the Flores news with the lawsuit. It's obviously the Jimmy Garoppolo stuff that's coming out. And finally, I mean, clearly the most important news, but I'll let you pick still, is Brady retiring. So, which one do you want to lead off with, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, what a week to start this show. That's like some of the biggest, I mean, arguably the greatest quarterback of all time officially retires after kind of a roller coaster. So let's just start with that one, I guess, since that's the one that came to my mind first. That's I guess maybe the crazy part is like what Schefter and crew leaks his retirement basically, and then like his dad comes out and says like no, he's not actually retiring, and there's no real news from Tom. So it's a very weird, a very 2022 retirement announcement, right? Nothing can be behind closed doors. There's always somebody that is leaking something. But the Brady thing is I guess I'm gonna let you talk a little. You are the Brady fan, you're the Patriots fan, you're from Patriots country. So I'll let you talk a little bit more about kind of his legacy and, maybe even what like Brady means to like, cause it's not something that it's not in me. I'm not a Patriots fan. I hated Tom Brady for the longest time because I was a St. Louis Rams fan. And,
Tough scene for you.
he essentially ended the St. Louis, like what was my right. I'm 34 years old. I was in my peak football fandom with the greatest show on turf, right? Dick Vermeil and Mike Martz and Kurt Warner and Marshall Faulk and Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt, blah, blah, blah. And, that was like almost what made me a huge football fan was that generation St. Louis Rams. And then Brady comes to Patriots and Belichick, obviously, and dethrones the Rams in a very Belichickian way. He basically figured out they hadn't installed like defensive back holding rules back in the day. Like you could just mug the shit out of wide receivers. You could basically do whatever you wanted to wide receivers.
Right.
And Belichick was like, well, no one can stop these guys. Let's just beat the shit out of them. And that's what he did. And the Rams couldn't figure out a way around it. And so I remember a lot of like kind of that stuff about Tom. And so like I was not bitter, right? But as a Rams fan, it was like that was the beginning of Brady's greatness, basically, was dethroning the team that then also got eventually ripped away from me. And so I wasn't a Brady fan, but definitely not a Brady fan. And if you're from St. Louis, you were not really a Patriot. You didn't really like the Patriots. And so that was just kind of always ingrained in me. But as I've gotten older, I just more and more respect like everything about Tom Brady. I also think he's gotten a lot cooler, a lot more like publicly, like people, it's okay to like be a Tom Brady fan as he's gotten into his 40s. The tequila stuff and just like his fun, his social media. I know it's not him, but like he embraced kind of the funniness of social media. And I have kind of become a little bit of a Brady fan as he's gotten older. So he's this weird guy where I feel like almost like LeBron is like the opposite to me. Him and LeBron, I think, are fairly decent parallels, except LeBron was, the king at 14 years old and Brady was a late round draft pick. But like Brady was the guy I absolutely hated, early in his career and for most of his career. And then by the end, I was like, how is this dude? How am I becoming a Brady fan? How is this guy cool now? Versus LeBron was like the guy where I'm like, oh my God, this dude is the greatest basketball player of all time. He does the Cleveland thing. Even when he left for Miami, like he was getting a lot of grief and I supported him. And now I'm just like, kind of like sick of LeBron. Like he went to the Lakers and, he's got a little bit of the whininess to him and stuff. So we've gone in opposite directions between those two. And I think that's kind of what is super, super cool for me about Tom Brady is that he can play this long, have this much success. And someone like me who hated him forever can almost kind of come around to him.
Right. I'll hit my take in a second, but Shane Newman wants to know, how long did it take to get over the Rams leaving for LA? Couldn't imagine my Vikings leaving for another state. I wouldn't know how to act.
It was tough. So I think I've said this on a stream or two, but for anybody that is new to the stream and maybe is just interested in the actual football talk, not all of the fantasy football stuff. I'm born and raised in the St. Louis area. I'm about 20 minutes outside of the city. And like my dad was a football coach. I played football growing up. Like I played college football. So football was my thing. I fell in love with the Rams during that, like I said, greatest show on turf time. And then even afterwards, when they like totally collapsed, the years they won 4 games in 3 years or whatever it was, I was still like one of my best friends had season tickets. We would go to tons of games. I started my first interest in like writing, I guess, blogging in this tout space. My buddy and I started a Rams like blog. Like that's how deep into the Rams I was.
Mm-hmm.
We went to training camp practices. We did all of that stuff. Like I watched every snap of every preseason game. Like I was a huge diehard fan. So to answer Shane's question, it was rough. I still kind of hate the Rams. Like I was like, you know me and like my Jimmy G stuff. And like, I like to joke about it mostly,
Right.
but it takes a lot for me to like root for Jimmy Garoppolo for like selfish purposes, right? For like tout take purposes.
I could never.
But like, I don't, right. Yeah, definitely you. But I was like still kind of rooting for the 49ers because just deep inside, it's like Stan Kroenke and the Rams. It's just impossible to root for them. So it has taken quite a while. And maybe that's part of what sent me down this like fantasy football path is because like my fandom got taken away from me. And now I'm just now I just root for players, right? I root for players and my money.
Yeah. So your Brady thoughts are my Kobe thoughts.
Okay.
So growing up, like I'm obviously a Celtics fan. I was born like 30 minutes south of Boston.
Okay.
And then I grew up in Mississippi. I moved back to Boston when I was 15 years old, and I've been here ever since. So, like, for me, Kobe, I grew up around a bunch of people that loved Kobe. I was still a Celtics fan. I also grew up around a lot of Cowboys fans, so I hate the Cowboys. So I understand your take on Brady, because by the end of Kobe, like, how do you just not respect him? I loved to hate Kobe. Kobe was fun to hate. And that's probably what people felt about Brady a lot. And
definitely.
So like, it's fun to have those villains in sports. You need a good villain. Like you need a good villain in sports. You need a good villain in a movie. You need a good villain in anything that's story driven. And sports are story driven. So when you lose out on that, that's when your ratings fall off. The Yankees. You either love the Yankees or they're the biggest villains on the planet when they play baseball. Right? So like, that's why the people watch them, because people are watching for them to win and people are watching for them to lose. And it happens with big markets. So Brady, for me, like, it's been terrible the last 2 days around here. Like, because I'll be the first to tell you that Patriots fans can be insufferable. Like they're terrible sometimes. They're all crying that he didn't thank them. He's thanked the organization. He's thanked the fan base 137 times. He's going to do it 3,000 more times.
Yeah.
He's probably going to sign a one-day contract and retire a Patriot.
Yep.
And thank the organization and team again. What do you think he's going to do when he gets enshrined into the Hall of Fame? When he comes back every 3 years? Oh, he's going to say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And he didn't say it in an Instagram post, so we're all freaking crying about it. Like, give me a goddamn break. And it makes me upset to root to be part of a fan base like that sometimes. But I mean, other than that, for me, Brady was the last guy from my childhood. So I will still root for the Patriots. I've also rooted for the Eagles my entire life. I fell into football because I loved Randall Cunningham. He's what drew me to football. He played the game different than everybody else. He would be
revolutionary players, man. Revolutionary players.
He would be unreal in today's game.
Mm-hmm.
So I will still root for the Patriots. I will still root for the Eagles. But now football for me is rooting specifically mostly for players that I like and to make money, which is what I think all of us that are watching this do for the most part. You can still have your fans. I mean, we were talking on the phone a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about Liam, right? Liam, I love the stream with him. We talked about how when you guys were talking strategy, he brought up groupthink, which we had both said we had thought of, but we didn't put enough consideration into it. For me, the one guy I did was DeAndre Swift, where it made me stay away because of the groupthink, but I never labeled it. So like that was interesting. But what was the next thing that he said or said later? He's like, I had to draft Josh Allen on every team because I couldn't live with myself if somebody else won it with him. And like I personally I like to give Liam shit about the Bills, but I love that. I love that fandom can still be part of this thing that we do. So like you can still be a fan of a team and go further, but you also cannot be a fan of Jimmy G because he sucks. So if we want
That's
to
a
get
good.
into that.
There's a good segue. There's a good segue. So the craziest part of the Jimmy G thing to me is maybe not even like all the takes on Jimmy G are wild. I've never seen a more mediocre player, which is exactly what he is.
He's so mediocre.
Divide like sports Twitter. Like this isn't like, we're more in the fantasy sports space, right? But like
Right.
it divides all like the real football bros. Like it divides everybody. The guys who love to put their hand in the dirt, the analytics nerds. It divides everybody. Some analytics people hate him. Some analytics people love him. The football bros, some are like, oh, he's just a winner, right? And some are like, oh my God, do you watch this guy? He fucking stinks, right? It's all over the place on, and there's never a middle ground. He is the political debate of football, Twitter or football, take guys. Like you cannot say like, yeah, Jimmy G's just like totally mediocre, not really good enough to elevate the team, but like he's an NFL quarterback. Like you can't say that. You're not allowed. It's not allowed to say that about Jimmy. So that, that in and of itself makes this whole like transition so crazy. And like I said, the crazy part for me isn't even necessarily about that. It was a day or two after they lose. It was like they just held a press conference for Jimmy. It was like he retired.
Right.
It was like they gave him the floor to just be like, yeah, this was a good run. I wanted, like he said, all those typical, I wanted to leave this place better than when I came in. I had a lot of fun with my team. And he kept saying, like, referencing the past. And it was like, he's still a member of this football team. Like, he's under contract for next year. And there's this guy just, the team didn't say anything. He just got up there and spoke so honestly about the fact that, like, look, I'm gone. Like, this was it. I'm gone. And I've never in my life seen something like that before. The quarterback of a team that made the Super Bowl a couple years ago was probably a couple plays away from going to the Super Bowl again this year. And he's just up at a press conference just being like, yep, and he's under contract. And he's like, yep, had a good run. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the memories. And it's like, that was so bizarre. It was so bizarre.
It's wild. The Schefter stuff like is wild. And do you want like conspiracy play X-Files theme real quick?
Yes.
So he's so far up Jimmy G's ass. Like was it a point to leak the Brady retirement because of Jimmy G? Like probably not, but like what is this Schefter like? Have you ever seen him do this with another player? Because I haven't.
No.
And it's like, why this player? I would get it if it was Rodgers. Like it would make sense. If
like Andrew Brandt is that for Rodgers. If you're familiar with like the NFL circles, Brandt was his agent, right? He used to be an agent, I believe, in the NFL. He's kind of made his rounds in the NFL or whatever, but fairly accomplished guy in NFL circles. And he does that for Rodgers too. Like he stands up for Rodgers basically no matter what. He will actually admit a little bit. He's like, look, I'm friends with Aaron. He'll caveat it, but then he'll still give like the same egregious, like Schefter style bomb about Rodgers. Like, oh yeah, oh, woe is me, Aaron Rodgers. But like you said, why Jimmy Garoppolo? Why are you his publicist?
Yeah, we're going to have fucking Schefter posting TikToks of building a statue to Jimmy G soon. Like it's unreal. It's unreal. Like what this guy's doing. Like I can't believe it. So like, I don't know. So for me, Jimmy G has always been trash. He was trash when he was in New England. He was trash when he was dividing the New England fan base. He was trash when he went to San Francisco. He was trash the year they went to the Super Bowl. I've never seen a quarterback get so lucky in like ball bounces in my entire life as he did that season. Right? Like I'm just watching. I'm like, man, if like two of these balls go the other way, like it's just game over for this guy. It was the opposite of like Mahomes early in the year. Like every ball bounced wrong for him this year, right? And Garoppolo that one season, every ball bounced exactly where it needed to be to not throw a back-breaking interception or this or that. So I've never been a Jimmy guy. I wanted them to move on from him when that was the debate in New England. And he's going to go somewhere. He's going to be mediocre. Tampa would be fun. It'd be fun if he went to Tampa.
That would be hilarious to then re-follow in Brady's footsteps. I mean, the problem is, like, even if you believe that Jimmy is like better than, like, you and I both are, I'm not a fan. I feel like both of us have made that fairly clear that we're not believers in Jimmy as a good quarterback. You know, he's a bottom end starting NFL quarterback, right? Which is not a high bar. Look at some of the guys that start NFL games. You know, the hype on Jimmy has made me more of a fan of guys that I thought I hated, like that I thought sucked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like Derek Carr. Like, why doesn't Derek Carr get the same level of hype that Jimmy Garoppolo does?
And he's better.
He wins almost as much. Like, and I'm not a Derek Carr fan.
Neither am I, but he's better.
But he's absolutely better. If Derek Carr was on the 49ers, they would be in the Super Bowl.
Right.
like that. I totally believe that. But it's like nobody gives him any hype. I mean, Jimmy G went to a non-Division I football program, and he's not even the best quarterback to ever come from Eastern Illinois. Tony Romo is. Tony Romo went to Eastern Illinois. Like, Eastern Illinois is not going to build a statue of Jimmy G, but like you said, Schefter's going to have one in his front yard. Schefter's
lining his gates in, you know, Connecticut.
Like he's probably got, you know, the gated entrance to his house and like the long winding driveway, and you know they'll put like the two big pillars or whatever that maybe have like a horse on them or something like that.
Lions.
Lions, right. He's the gargoyles, right? They'll have like gargoyles and stuff on there. He's gonna put 100%.
Yeah,
that will be the entrance. It'll be Jimmy.
Yeah, it's unreal. So for me, I can't believe that a team's actually going to trade for him, and I think whatever they trade for him is going to end up being way too much.
Yeah. What do you think they're gonna? What do you think? Do you think so? People are speculating they're going to get a 1 for him. I cannot.
No freaking way they get a 1 for him.
But they'll get a 2, right?
They'll get a 2.
Some desperate team will give him a 2.
They'll give him a 2, probably like a 2nd and a 7th or something and plus some sort of conditional pick. But like, dude, how does he improve your team? Which team would he work on right now? Like
that's the thing.
Yeah, you know.
He works on the 49ers because they have freaking Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, an elite offensive line, and Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
Where can he go? Like, you even mentioned the Bucks. That would be, assuming Godwin comes back, that would be like, maybe they have a really good offensive line. You know, I guess say whatever you want about Arians, but like it won't really work there either. I don't think the system is not set up for him. You know, I'm trying to think of where it would, and I'm totally like, he wouldn't even work on like the Chiefs. He wouldn't work on the Chiefs, and they have Tyreek. I don't know. I can't imagine someone getting the value out of him for a 2nd round pick that they think. I mean, do the Colts try it again? Get rid of Wentz and try Jimmy, like try another retry. I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't know where he ends. I mean, like there's going to be a ton of quarterback movement around here.
What about there's I mean, like there's going to be so many teams with new quarterbacks that, you know, he'll land somewhere. But what about Pittsburgh? Can he be better than Ben was?
I think he's going to be right around what Ben was if he goes there. But that's Ben when he's like, you know, Hasselhoff crawling to a cheeseburger level, like like that Jimmy G's supposed to be in his prime, and he's not going to do much better. Like, he's just not the quarterback I'd want on that team trying to get the ball to Deontay Johnson and specifically like a Chase Claypool.
He can't get the ball to Claypool. He can get the ball to Deontay probably.
Right.
He can't get the ball.
He can't get it to Claypool. And what are you doing at that point? What are you doing?
And Ben couldn't. Part of the reason why they couldn't succeed was because Ben couldn't get it to Claypool and James Washington and whatever. So what's the difference? Yeah. What about this one?
So I was going to bring up the Panthers. Kenneth Robinson brings them up. I was going to bring up the Panthers, but I'd rather have Darnold. And we saw how that went. But
yeah,
I mean, there was flashes for Darnold early, but I'd rather have Darnold than because Darnold at least will freaking throw it downfield.
And he can run. He can run a little bit.
Yeah. The Commanders is thrown in the comments too. I mean, I guess
it takes me a second still to I guess there's another piece of, we don't really need to touch on that one, but there's another piece of news, I guess,
that was
dropped.
stupid. How do you not just take the Red Wolves? That was the name. And they botch it again because they're the Washington football team Commanders. So yeah. So I guess the last thing is the Flores stuff, and I don't know how deep you want to get into this. I don't know if we're the best two guys to be talking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think he has a case. I think the problem for the NFL is who owns these teams. There's no diversity in ownership. So how are you going to have diversity? How are you going to feel like you're properly diversifying your coaching hires? And even when you are, and you think you got the best guy for the job, you're always going to get a side look because of who the owners are, in my opinion. And I think they need to find a way to diversify that.
Yeah, it's kind of like, this isn't and meant to be an excuse, so I hope it doesn't come out that way. But I kind of think of it along the lines of like, you don't know what you don't know. You know where you come from, how you have lived your whole life, where you are in life. Like it's actually the opposite of an excuse. These people should take the time to kind of learn a little bit, about the rest of us, 99.9% of the world. But like that, Jerry Jones isn't exposed to the types of people that he needs to be exposed to in order to appropriately deal with, this entire hiring situation. Like it obviously should have changed a long time ago, but certainly in 2021, 2022, like the amount of quality candidates across, and it gets made out to be a black or white thing. There's Hispanic candidates, there's Asian candidates, there's women candidates, there's everything, right? And we don't even need to get into like LGBT type stuff that like I remember going back to the Rams thing again. Michael Sam, if you remember, the Michael Sam went to Mizzou, was a stud defensive end at Mizzou and came out as gay, and like there was a whole huge issue around that. I do partially believe he fell in the draft because of, now his career didn't work out, but I do kind of believe he fell in the draft because of his sexual orientation. So this has been an issue for our whole life, since the founding of any professional league, really, but definitely in the NFL. And like you said, I'm not the person I don't have the answers, and I'm certainly not the person that can speak from experience on a lot of this stuff. But I'm happy for Brian Flores that he is willing to embrace this situation and just be like, look, my career I'm willing to risk my career being over in order to maybe do some good. I do think, maybe I'm totally ignorant on this, I don't think his coaching career is over. I think his NFL head coaching career is certainly at least very, very, very delayed. But I think there are enough progressive like colleges that he could go get it. He would be able to get a college head coaching job. Maybe not the job that he would want, but I don't think his coaching career is over. And so I really respect him for doing what he's doing, because it was never going to stop until someone did this. It was never, ever going to stop until someone did this. And just seeing not even just his stories, but other stuff. Some of the most interesting stuff that I saw was like people reporting like, oh yeah, like an agent or something being like, yeah, I talked to my black coaching candidates, and they were, because he would say, anytime you get a chance to do an interview, go do it, because, get the experience, get your name out there or whatever. And the coaches would come back and be like, that was the biggest waste of they were just checking the box, right? They were checking the Rooney Rule box. Right. And so like they feel, more empowered now because there's someone else out there that just went through this, that was a head coach, and hopefully can, slowly start to right the ship, right? When all these old rich white owners die, hopefully we can start to turn things around, probably because of Brian Flores.
So Dorico L brings up what I would have said for Flores. Like, I think there's a potential that he comes back to the Patriots. Seems like the right place that he could fall right back in.
That take.
And the other thing, the other big thing about this is, if he was really offered $100,000 to lose games, dude, that's a big problem. Like Like that is a massive issue for the NFL too. So it could just be a whole can of worms that's getting unlocked here. So yeah,
Between that, which was a better or a more better is not definitely not the right word. Which was a more shocking or crazier story, that getting offered a shitload of money to lose games, or the whole getting invited to the yacht to meet Deshaun Watson, or I forget what the phraseology that they use or whatever, but it was Deshaun Watson, right? That the owner invited him to the yacht to meet with Deshaun Watson. Which one was crazier?
To me, it's the $100,000, man. Like, it's just like if I guess it's shocking and not shocking. It wouldn't shock me like in terms of like owners pulling stuff like this.
Yeah.
But the fact that they actually do it and don't think they're going to get caught doing stuff like this, it's that above the law mentality that these guys have when they're that rich, right? Like, I can do whatever I want.
Yes.
And even if I get caught, I'm going to get out of it. So, but we'll see what happens with it. I think he should lose the team if it's true. But
I didn't see this. Did you see? Shane says, "Did you see Hugh Jackson's comments on losing?" I haven't. I've been away from the media a little bit today. What did Hugh say?
No, I didn't see that today. Unfortunately, I got home about an hour ago and was like trying to get stuff together for this. But yeah.
What about this? Do you think like how far does this wormhole go? Do you think that they went something like this far? Because I mean, the coaches can impact things kind of like, obviously with play calling and all of that. But in
New York when they run a quarterback sneak on 3rd and 8. Yeah. So are we doing it there too?
Or the Colts punt, the Colts fake punt, when the Colts did the ridiculous fake punt. Yeah. That's true. But Tua could throw the game easier even than the coaches could probably.
Yeah, but I think if you're doing it, you're only going to one player or one coach, because you know how the whole, if two people know a secret, everybody knows a secret type of deal. So you can't, it would just get out way more often if they were going to a bunch of players. And you can't go to a guy like Tua because Tua's got he's auditioning every time he's out there still, because he's on a rookie deal and he needs to be putting on tape so that he can get that first big contract. So they're not going to be like, hey, I'll give you $100,000 if you throw a pick. And he's like, yeah, well, I'll get $100 million if I throw a touchdown. So right. So it would be the coach and it would just be the head coach. So we saw what happened with Bountygate. Once, you tell the players that stuff, the coaches all know, all those people know, it's going to get out. It's just kind of the way that the cookie crumbles with that stuff. So
it's like the net. I don't know if you watched the Netflix show. Oh my God. Now I'm blanking on the sports. It was a sports documentary where they talked about the Arizona State scandal, point shaving scandal, many years ago. But it was the same thing. They had one player, and then he invited a buddy. Yeah. And once he invited the buddy, they both made a bunch of money and they start spending it. And, it's like, two broke ass college kids, all of a sudden spending it. So like you said, once more than one person knows, multiple people knows. The other thing about Tua is let's be real. Tua made more than $100K at Alabama.
Right.
Yeah, right. Tua got paid plenty at Alabama, I'm sure, under the table. So he wouldn't have done. I agree with you. He wouldn't do anything. Drico did say in the chat that Hugh was also paid to lose, which I hadn't seen. But Hugh must just be sitting on a pile of money.
Yeah,
he just doesn't want to coach.
He was really fucking good at it.
He's just not interested in coaching. He was just stacking up losses and $100K. He's like, dude, I'm making $1 million every year with all these losses, and now he's got so much money he doesn't care to coach anymore. He made so much money from all those losses he can shit on the NFL from his mansion.
There you go, man. So if that's true, then there's a big problem in the NFL, and it'll get covered up, or it'll get swept underneath the rug. And it's coming out at the perfect time for him to start. Billionaire Hugh Jackson. Such a good line. So they get the Super Bowl to cover things up for a little bit, and they get the Brady retirement, which helps somewhat too. And so it'll just be like everything, unless it's Deflategate, which we still hear about every 5 seconds. But
Yeah, it's funny we don't ever hear about Bountygate. Like even
Right.
Sean Payton retires, and no one says a thing about.
Yeah, no one brings it
Bountygate.
up, right? When Belichick retires, what are we gonna hear? And this, God, I'm becoming. I was doing streams last year with my friend that's a diehard Patriots fan too, and I would yell at him about talking about the Patriots. So we're not going to do that anymore. Not today, I don't think, but
Not today. I'm sure we will later.
right. Do we want to get into this next segment? Are you ready for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I saw some people looking for best ball talk. So you know what? We're Spike Week. We are a best ball show. Well, a best ball site, I suppose. And I have come up with something that I think is going to be fun. So I'm going to share my screen real quick, and I will explain what I am sharing in case we have some audio listeners. So what we're going to do is we are going to do a tier list for offenses in the NFL this year.
Okay.
So clearly at this point in the season, we don't know a lot about every single team, right? So what we're going to do is we're probably just going to hit on the NFC teams this week.
Okay.
We'll probably do AFC next week. But what we're going to do is in 3 months, 4 months, when the draft's done, when free agency is done, we're going to come back and do this again. And we're going to compare where we thought we were at.
I like this.
In February 2nd. And we're going to see how close we were then. And then we can compare at the end of next season and see just how stupid we are, because we know that's going to be coming too. So I do have all the teams here and set up by division. So we will go start with division, and we will start with last year's Super Bowl winner, the Bucks, and we will end it with this year's NFC Super Bowl representative, the Rams. So our categories, again, for the audio listeners, we have the top one, which is give me stacks or give me death. Basically, we're looking to try to stack one of these teams in every draft. So it doesn't mean we're trying to get, if we pick like the Bills, for instance, we're not trying to stack the Bills every time, but any team that's in this tier, we're trying to put into our best ball builds. Stack, but don't go out of my way is a team that we want to stack, but we're not gonna stress about not getting them. And then we're gonna have teams with one off in most drafts. So if you think there's some guys on there that you're gonna want to take here and there, in a draft, usually, then you're gonna grab them. Maybe trying to think of a good example from last year. So a good example would honestly be the Green Bay Packers, because you'd want one off Aaron Jones, you'd want to one off Devontae Adams.
You like all the players basically, but you're not like were you really excited about like full stacking the offense? Not really. Yeah, I like it.
And then a one off and maybe every 5 drafts. So for me, that would be a team like the Lions last year, where maybe I wanted Hawkinson here and there. I wasn't big on Swift, but I understand other people were. And then the final category is full fade, you idiots. So we're going to keep it simple on certain teams. Last year for me, one of those full fades was the Saints. I did my best to not take any Saints if I didn't have to. I didn't believe in the team after Drew Brees. I didn't believe in the offense, and I didn't think Michael Thomas was coming back anytime soon enough to make that offense viable. So my Kamara exposure was like less than 3%, maybe even less than 2%. So what we're going to do is we'll start by division. So we have to agree on it too. We have to come to an agreement. So there might be some arguments, and we might want to kill each other by the end of this. But where are you on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now?
Oh man, they have to be the toughest one. We have to start with the toughest one.
We have to start with the Bucs because I said so.
Yeah, you make the rules. This is your show. So wow, you did say we're going to find out how prepared I am for this year, and where I'm really feet to the fire with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So my initial take off the top of first of all, I do have to take Erik never argues, Drico says, which is very good.
He hasn't done a show with me yet.
Have definitely the first for this very good sarcasm from Drico. So my first take is the Bucs are definitely going towards the bottom here for me. I think the ADP is going to change for sure, but I have to imagine people are just going to still have a little bit of the bias on the Bucs. Mike Evans is obviously very good. We'll probably remove Gronk here, right? They'll probably bring someone competent in at quarterback, I would have to think, now we talked about Jimmy or whatever, but Godwin off an ACL, Brady really made that engine tick. I know Jameis helped them put up monster fantasy performances. They're probably more the one-off, maybe every 5 drafts for me.
Okay. So here's my take on the Bucs right now. I don't know what they have. I'm assuming Godwin doesn't come back. He could.
Okay.
Like that.
Yeah.
That is a thing. I think Godwin's going to get lured away. So who is on their offense? They don't even have Fournette signed.
No.
At the moment. So they have Evans. Evans has 8 straight years of 1,000-yard seasons now, right? It's 8, maybe 7. He also has 8 straight years of being the only guy to pull himself out of every fucking game. Right. Like, have you seen a Bucs game that dude has not pulled himself out of the game after catching a football?
No.
It's maddening. So I like Evans and all, but like for me, I'm on full fade right now with the Bucs, which I probably sounds like ridiculous, but if you think about it, who else do they have? They don't have a running back. They don't have a tight end.
I can read it to you. So perfect touting of this. I put together on spikeweek.com. If you go under NFL, I put together pre-draft depth charts. Now it's only for the skill players. So if you're just an NFL fan looking for offensive line, defense, whatever, that's not there. But for fantasy football players, you can go here and see all the so to your point, Chris Godwin is not on here. Leonard Fournette is not on here. I actually need to update and take Tom Brady off of here. This was before the retirement news. Here's the offense without free agents: Tom Brady, Keyshawn Vaughn, Mike Evans, Scotty Miller, Tyler Johnson, Cam Brate.
Do you want any of that other than Evans if he has some kind of quarterback that can get him the ball?
But Evans
and even so, without anyone to pull coverage.
Evans will be the guy that people will say, "Oh, look at his guarantee." Right? There's no one else. Mm-hmm. So who are they going to throw to? Right? He's going to get all this volume, and those are the kind of guys. Like he's going to get steamed way up, no matter who the quarterback is. Right? Darren Waller was going super high with Derek Carr as his quarterback. I know it's tight end, but you know what I mean? Like Allen Robinson with Andy Dalton and Fields throwing to him. They're like, "Oh my God, he's going to get so much volume." And I can't buy like 3rd round Mike Evans, with like you said, with Jimmy G at quarterback. So I'm cool. Full fade.
Yeah, full fade. Cool. So we will throw them in the full fade for now. Now, again, when we redo this in 4 months, things can completely change. And that's why we're doing it now. And we're going to redo it then. All right. So where are you on the Saints?
Saints are full fade as well. What's going to change? So I totally agree with you. One of the only good takes I had this offseason is actually on Chip chasing what I called the Saints was a house of cards. Mm-hmm. Was that they were, very dependent upon Kamara, Michael Thomas, and we obviously saw what happened with Michael Thomas, and they just totally collapsed with especially even with Jameis, without Jameis, with Taysom, with Kamara, nothing mattered. Nothing's going to change. They're like $1 billion over the salary cap. Sean Payton was like, "I'm going to put us in bankruptcy and peace out." And peace out.
Tyreek Hill real quick.
Yeah, exactly. We need that. There's one of your next. There's one of your next videos you can do is Sean Payton on Tyreek Hill's face.
Peace out to all the Saints.
That's exactly what he did. So how are they going to get better? They can't. They have no. What are we? Somebody was on a stream last week saying, "Well, I expect Ian Book to be the quarterback, so I like so and so." I was like, "How can you like someone if Ian Book is the quarterback?" So they're an easier full fade even than the Bucs for me.
Okay, so I'm with you on full fade, and I picked this division first because I think
it's painful.
This is a painful division this year, right?
Yep.
So now we're on the Carolina. And the other thing about this division is we're not 100% sure. They not every team has a starting quarterback. The only one that feels even remotely safe is Matt Ryan. And we weren't saying that 3 weeks ago or, whatever. So where are you on the Panthers?
This is good. Andrew says, "I expect to like the NFC South defenses if Ian Book is the quarterback." I agree. The Panthers would be... This is so bizarre, but the Panthers, and we'll get to the Falcons, are the teams I'm more bullish on out of this division. The Panthers, obviously, the issue is quarterback. Well, a couple things. quarterback. They fired Joe Brady, who was like one of the bright spots of, a very smart young offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt Rule is back, and Matt Rule has fairly clearly to me proven himself to be a bit of a boomer dunce coach. And then they brought in old Giants coach as their offensive coordinator. Oh my God, someone will remember it. But a dunce of an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, Freddie Kitchen, right? Not
No,
Kitchen. No, the other dummy.
Yeah.
Oh my
Anyway,
God. I know
you'll remember it. But so the coaching staff is not setting up this offense for success, and they obviously have quarterback issues. However, we have Christian McCaffrey and in particular DJ Moore, and having done a few early drafts, Robbie Anderson has really, really plummeted. And I mean, Terrace Marshall basically goes undrafted. And so they are probably in the one-off in most drafts, I guess is where I would probably put them, just because I'm still super bullish on like DJ Moore, almost a matter of situation, DJ Moore in particular.
Yeah, so I'm one off in most drafts as well on them. I could be convinced to go into stack, but don't go out of my way for them.
Yeah.
Because if I think that's one of those teams that could go either way, and if you have a higher percentage of stacks than the field on the Panthers, especially with this division that we're looking at, that they could, I mean, I think the Bucs are still going to have a good defense. I think the Saints are still going to have a decent defense, but just overall, this division is going to be terrible in general. Yeah. So they could be one of those sneaky teams that you're like, holy shit, how did the Panthers pull me to the finals this year? So
the only thing that bothers me about them, and I know we don't, we'll pick up the pace, but with Matt Rule, and that they have a good defense. Like they legitimately have a really talented defense. If like the defense continues to get better and you keep these boomer coaches in, like it just terrifies me that we'll never get a truly unlocked Christian McCaffrey, a truly unlocked DJ Moore, et cetera. Like they could bring in Deshaun Watson, and I'm not sure that, or Russell Wilson or something like that. And I'm still not sure that Matt Rule will really let the offense cook. So that's my only concern with like putting them more in the middle.
Also, thank you, Andrew Mackins. It is Ben McAdoo, and my friend Jackie is going to be very upset with me because she texts me pictures of Ben McAdoo like every other day. So, all right. So Atlanta, where are you at on Atlanta?
Well, I'm definitely in on Kyle Pitts, so that is that's definitely going to keep them out of full fade. I was talking end of last week about their wide receiver situation is very, very open, and a guy who I was like definitely on a full fade last year that I think proved to me he has a little bit more upside and can play a little bit more than I thought is actually Russell Gage. I was pretty impressed with him this year, particularly down the stretch, and I think he's earned a little more respect than maybe we gave him last year. So they're somewhere between one-off in most drafts and a one-off maybe every 5 drafts, just because I definitely want to have a lot of Kyle Pitts, and I think Russell Gage, and then like maybe another guy will emerge that we want to draft.
Yeah, so Gage is one of those guys that like I will look at drafting this year, but I'm not going to go out of my way to do it.
Yep.
Where like Kyle Pitts, I might still creep up there because he didn't score a ton of touchdowns this year, obviously.
2,
but he
right?
still, I think it was 2, and he still had a good year, like for a rookie tight end. So I'm still going to be looking to grab Pitts unless he gets like crazy out of control in ADP.
1 touchdown.
1 touchdown, and it was that
1,000 yards
game.
1,000 yards, 1 touchdown. Unbelievable.
All right, so we're in agreement on one off every 5 drafts or so.
Yep.
Detroit.
So my concern with Detroit.
Do you want my thoughts on Detroit?
Yeah, you go Detroit. You go Detroit.
So I was a full fade on Detroit last year for the most part. I think my most owned Detroit player was Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm not saying that to look smart. I'm saying that in relation to I still didn't have him a ton. So like I was just grabbing him late when I was just trying to grab someone random, right? Like, So I didn't have a ton of him, and that just shows you that I wasn't drafting Swift, and I was barely drafting Hawkinson because I don't believe in Jared Goff. And I'm a little more bullish on Detroit this year.
Okay.
Because I haven't come around on Jared Goff, but I'm not even sure he's going to be the quarterback there. They do have an out that cost them a little bit of money if they release him after June 1st. And so they might be one of these teams that surprisingly goes after a quarterback. And if they do, then they get real interesting. So I'm somewhere between a one-off and most drafts because I might still want Hawkinson. If Swift's ADP goes down enough, then I might be looking at Swift. I'm not grabbing him in the third round though, and I don't know what his ADP is currently. And Amon-Ra St. Brown's a stud. He's nasty, man. Like if he's doing it with Jared Goff, if they upgrade the quarterback, he can only get better. So for me right now, I'm in between one-off and most drafts and a stack, but don't go out of my way for them. So I will have some. I will have some Detroit. I know it sounds weird with Detroit, but I think it could be one of those sneaky teams to get a little bit of overexposure on the field with stack wise.
Yeah, I would have been between one-off in most drafts and one-off maybe every 5 drafts because I think Goff is a very prohibitive favorite to come back. I think they are cool with Dan Campbell. I think he proved himself this year, and they're willing to kind of ride this rebuild out. Like I think the Goff thing was committing to a multi-year rebuild, and they don't want to, try to move too fast, basically, on that. So I do think it's Goff again, which is okay for certain players, actually.
I think it's smart for them as an organization to stick with Goff this year because I don't think there's a quarterback in the draft that they should be looking to get. And I think that they can continue to rebuild the team for next year, get their rookie quarterback, then they're off to the races.
Yeah. And then I like Amon-Ra too. I mean, man, Amon-Ra was just a guy, God, he just looked, like you're looking at him in the last 2 months of the season, like, why the hell were they not getting this guy the ball more? Maybe it's, the rookie thing. He just figured it out later in the season, but man, it wasn't just like a volume thing. I think he can really play. My issue is that those guys that emerge down the stretch, like he did, are the guys that get steamed. Right. If he had a good first 6 weeks and fell apart down the stretch, he wouldn't be the one getting steamed. But the last thing we remember is him just being a superstar down the stretch. And they're going to bring in wide receivers. I feel like they're not going to run back Khalif Raymond and Trinity Benson or whatever at wide receiver. Now,
insert random name generator name here.
Yeah, exactly. Madden creative player. I just feel like he's the guy that gets a little bit steamed to where the cost is going to be a little bit prohibitive. Not even just the player. It's just, kind of like the Mike Evans thing. I don't hate Mike Evans, but, it's just when we're factoring in where he's going in drafts, I feel probably a little bit uncomfortable. That's how I feel about Swift right now too. I like Swift totally fine. It's just, I don't love where he goes. So I guess, so if you were in between 2 and 3, and I was in between 3 and 4. I think that means one-off in most drafts is probably where we got to land.
That sounds good to me. All right, so where are you on the Bears?
Ooh, I want to hear your Bears take. Well, we'll start. You go this one, and then we'll ping pong back and forth.
Okay, I was outrageously bullish on the Bears last year. I was very big on Fields. I was big on Kmet, and I was big on Robinson, and I was big on Mooney. I mean, the only guy I wasn't really taking was Montgomery because I just didn't like his ADP where it was, and I was more into the passing game. I think with the overhaul in Chicago, I'm willing to give them another chance. So they are going to be a team that I'm stacking. And if I can get them where I would like to get them, which is I also want to see who else they bring in because I think Robinson's going to be gone, right?
Yep.
So I'd like to see who else they bring on for the other side of Mooney. So they're going to probably be a stack, but don't go out of my way team for me right now. But they very heavily have a chance to be the team to absolutely fuck me for the rest of the season. And I draft way too much of again.
Actually, I couldn't agree more with this take. I think stack but don't go out of my way is 100% where you put the Bears, driven largely by Fields and the potential. Looking at their depth chart as well, they have 2 wide receivers coming back. So it's not like will they bring someone in? They physically have to bring in wide receivers. It's only Mooney and Daz Newsome that are coming back, and then they do have Kmet at tight end. And so Kmet's a guy we're gonna like. Mooney looked pretty damn good this year in a high volume role. Yeah. And they're going to bring somebody else in, and it's finally going to be Fields' show. And when you just have a quarterback like Fields, I'm in.
Yeah, I'm in, and I have a feeling that for all the teams we've looked at right now, I think by the time we do this again in a few months, we're going to be putting them in the top tier category for them.
They're going to bring somebody in that we're going to like.
Yeah, and we're going to be like, all right, we're rolling with the fucking Bears again, and we're going to try this one more time. So
they're going to like sign some offensive linemen too, right? Their O-line was shitty, and so that was a concern. They're going to like sign 3 offensive linemen and bring in like a stud wide receiver, and we're just going to be like, wheels up.
Right. All right. So where's the Vikings for you?
Ooh, the Vikings are tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Zimmer being gone is in theory a perk of potentially stacking them, but Jefferson is really the only still exciting name for me. I guess Irv would maybe be a potentially exciting name, but when has Kirk Cousins ever won anybody anything in fantasy? Maybe they move on from him, but it's not like they have the ability to bring in a game-changing quarterback that would really change our take on the Vikings. So, I'm definitely not going to avoid Justin Jefferson. So that just automatically makes them not a full fade, but I can't really go higher than a one-off in maybe every 5 drafts.
See, I could see that take, and I could also see a one-off in most drafts currently for every reason that you just said for the most part. But the problem with Jefferson is ADP, which like you're really banking on him there. So I'm more in line, and I hate that we're agreeing on so much because this does not make this fun. But yeah, I'm a one-off and maybe every 5 drafts.
Here's a good one. I'm glad you got this one.
Okay, so you're glad I got Green Bay.
Yes.
So this is one of the biggest question mark teams we have right now. And I'm going to go with the assumption, I've been back and forth on this. I'm under the assumption that Rodgers and Devontae Adams are gone. Like that's my take on them. And that means they're bringing in Love. And that means that I might be playing wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers by the end of the year because what the fuck did they have? But that means Randall Cobb's gone, obviously, which who cares? But like, I'm just pointing out that their depth chart is going to be bad at that position. So I'm a full fade on the Green Bay Packers right now. And I know people are going to be like, oh, but AJ Dillon. And it's like, well, why do I want AJ Dillon if there's nothing around him? It's the Kamara thing, right? Yep. And I don't think AJ Dillon's Kamara. And if I'm going to fade Kamara last year, I'm going to for sure fade AJ Dillon at an inflated price point this year. So I'm a full fade on Green Bay right now.
And we all love AJ Dillon. The perk of AJ Dillon was because he was on an Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams offense.
Absolutely.
So it's not about AJ Dillon. If he's on a Jordan Love and Alan Lazard offense, like who gives a shit? So full fade, no disagreement from me.
All right. Filet.
Real quick, Paul, I don't think Harbaugh. I mean, Justin Jefferson's been smashing with Mike Zimmer. I don't think if they hire, have they hired a coach? I haven't been following this that closely, but Harbaugh would not hurt Justin Jefferson for me.
All right, Philly for you.
Ooh, I think that they are going to be one-off in most drafts solely because I just don't think a Jalen Hurts like passing stack is something that I can foresee being like a true total league winner. Like I actually think I'll probably like Jalen Hurts a fair bit. I think his close to the season will have people pretty skittish on him and his performance in the playoff game. People will be like, oh no, this kid sucks. But they're going to have to throw a little more than they did last year. And we know about his rushing upside. And I mean, Dallas Goedert is like, people are been hyping up like TJ Hawkinson and such. If there's a second coming of Mark Andrews next year, it's Dallas Goedert to me. The similarities just are too obvious. And then you have Devontae Smith, and maybe they do something else at wide receiver. I think someone like a Miles Sanders will be a value too. So they're not a team I'm super excited about stacking, but I am excited about a bunch of individual pieces. So one off most drafts fits that.
So for me, a lot of the stuff you said, but also if we like Goddard, I love Devontae Smith,
Yep.
and Hurts has the potential to, I'm in a slow draft with Eagles, and I got Jalen Hurts really, really late, and so people, to your point, they're still not taking this guy. So I would normally be one off in most drafts, but based on where we can get these guys right now, and this could change based on it being February 2nd. For me, they're a stack, but don't go out of my way because I think you can just fall into it.
That makes perfect sense. And those are the best ones to target.
Yeah.
That, like, we like all of the individual players, but we're not necessarily like super, super hyped on the stack, but it just kind of like falls together because of ADP and public sentiment. So I'm good with that one.
Okay. I mean, that's just the way I'm looking at that team for now. And and just to wrap them up, if they bring somebody in on the outside, then again, another wheels up team for me that
definitely
they can do something. So
I mean, if they upgrade Jalen Reagor, the offense might get a little bit better.
Oh my God. Have you ever seen anybody that thought he should have scored a touchdown more than him? Every time he caught the foot, he would get like a 1 yard out. And then he would like slam the ball on the ground like he should have broke 95 yards. It just blew my mind every time.
Oh man, that's good.
You get an easy one. Here's a layup.
The Giants, yeah. So I mean, I'm actually now I'm a little nervous because
don't do it, Beimfohr. Don't give Giants fans hopes right now. Like,
absolutely, you have to give them hope.
Oh my God, what are we?
They have Brian Daboll. They have Brian Daboll as their head coach.
Did you not see my Daboll video?
Hagen, yes, I did, and it was very good. But seriously, how can we not at these costs, which are going to be now? I guess I should caveat this again. Like you said, we're talking about this on February 2nd. This could be like the team that gets steamed, right? Because of the Daboll effect. You know how fantasy football players are. They'll fall in love with this Daboll thing and all of their cheap costs, right? Tony's going to be cheap. Ingram's gone, so who knows what happens. I guess they have Rudolph, but who knows exactly what happens, how it shakes out in their skill position. And Daniel Jones is cheap, and Saquon's going to seem like this super sexy pick. So they could all get steamed. So I'm providing that caveat. But I think that they were reasonable picks last year with Joe freaking Judge, the dustiest head coach in the NFL. You put Daboll in there, I can't fathom that there isn't value to be had in these guys. So they're in the one-off in most drafts for me, and they're not that far away from stack. They're not that far away from stack, but don't go out of my way with a 17th round Daniel Jones.
All right. We might have to come back to the Giants because I understand that Daboll's coming in, and I think he will turn the organization around. I don't think this is a 1 year turnaround for them.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think that the current construction, he never really until the end of this season supported a stud running back, right?
Right.
So that takes Barkley out for me for right
Booker's
now.
back. Booker's back as well.
Booker's back. And Galladay's, him and Evans are going to fight each other to see who can pull themselves off the field the most. So
yeah, and Tony, and put Tony in there too.
Yeah, so I think they have potential pieces, but I'm like a full fade on these guys right now because I don't know where I want them and what I want from the Giants. Like if you were to draft today, which Giant are you targeting?
Yeah, this is why you're pushing me more to meeting in the middle here on a one-off and maybe every 5 drafts, because I do now start to think I would want to be mixing in Shepard, Tony, a little bit of Saquon. Like I don't know off the top of my head where he goes, but a little bit of Saquon, some late round Daniel Jones, just because.
Where is Saquon going right now?
I think
I meant to look at this in the draft, and I didn't.
So Tony is a pretty exciting guy. I feel like if he can get his head on straight and stay on the field, I do feel like the Daboll effect is very, very good for him. And then, but to answer the reason why I'm in the one-off every 5 drafts is because to answer your question, it was probably like a Sterling Shepard, just like a guy who because the issue is he's coming off an Achilles injury, but if he's healthy, him in the late rounds, like he can play football. And you just put him in the slot, in a Daboll offense. I feel like he was fine last year before he got hurt. He was helping you in fantasy. And so guys like him, I just want to mix in.
All right. So we'll put them one off every 5 drafts.
Yeah. End of the second for Saquon.
I want to look at the camera and I want to say, I just want you guys to remember that I was on full fade units for the Giants based on everything we know about the New York freaking Giants. So that gives me the Cowboys, right? So
Yes.
I think this is the first slam dunk that were give me stacks or give me death. I think there are questions and there's ADP questions, but I do think we're going to be going out of our way to target the Cowboys. I think a mistake that we did make last year was groupthink on CD Lamb. We allowed him to get steamed too high, and we were still taking him in the second. And we knew that Amari Cooper was probably still going to have one more good year. I thought it was a thought that I had, and even though I had that thought, I still went too deep on CD Lamb. But I think he finally becomes the number one this year, and we might not even see Cooper there or whatever's going to go on there. But so I'm give me stacks or give me death for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep, really not much to add. I think you just run it back. I think we ran pretty bad on the Cowboys. Dak got a little bit banged up early, and maybe the defense was a little bit better than we expected, and I just think it didn't all come together. But the upside is just too good for that offense.
All right, you get the fun one. The Washington, a man has no name.
Yeah, the Washington. What did you say they should have been? The Red
Wolves. That's who the fans voted. They like put them on the vote, and like they had like one of the highest percentages, and then they were like, "Nah, we're not doing that." It's like, why'd you put it on the fucking ballot?
What's the point?
Yeah. so where are you with them?
They're pretty painful. Obviously, another quarterback dependent team. If they're going to run back someone, they're not going to run back Taylor Heineke. But if they're going to run back anyone even remotely near that, it's close to a full fade. I do have a little bit of faith that with the amount of capital and everything they've invested in the defense, that they're not going to spend too much there, and they realize that the offensive line is an issue, quarterback is an issue. Curtis Samuel never got on the field, so wide receiver is an issue. I think that they're going to invest a lot in the offense, and I'm not gonna full fade Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin and probably Logan Thomas at his cost. So they're in the every 5 drafts.
Especially with Terry McLaurin falling out of the second round now.
Yep.
So now he's finally cost effective to grab. Where like I didn't love grabbing him at his ADP last year, so I didn't have enough of him. And it wasn't an indictment on him. It's just I didn't like the quarterback. Actually, I kind of like the quarterback situation because it was Fitzpatrick, but I wasn't completely sold on it. Yeah. So I'm with you on the one off and maybe every 5 drafts. I'm close to one off in most drafts because I think McLaurin could be a guy, especially if they steal a quarterback somewhere. But I'm fine here, and I could see them on the rise.
Diami will be a nice kind of he might get steamed again too. He got steamed last year, but very interesting if they get a quarterback upgrade, late round wide receiver.
All right, now it's time for the best division in football, probably, right? The NFC West.
Yep.
So Cardinals are actually a really interesting team coming up. Connor is not going to do what he did again. No. So he's going to be.
They're both free agents.
Yeah, I was going to say
Connor
he's
and
under contract this year.
Both free agents.
So what are they going to do at the running back spot? Is Hopkins going to be healthy? And he's getting old.
Yep.
I'm a Kyler Murray mark, to be honest. Like I love that dude, and I went out of my way to get him in a lot of drafts last year. But if he doesn't have a full strength Hopkins, I don't know what we're doing here. So I don't know what I want to do with them. I would probably say that I'm a one-off in most drafts and leaning to stack, but don't go out of my way. But I can be convinced to go down too on this team.
The hard part is it was kind of like this is the souped up version of like what I was saying about the Giants, where it's like, in theory, there's excitement about the offense, right? Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins is back. Kirk is a free agent, but that puts Rondale maybe into play, whatever. But then you go through and you're like, okay, but who are you really targeting?
Right.
And you're like,
Yeah.
No one. Like Kyler when he falls. Right. The running back situation is obviously uncertain. We'll probably be interested in whoever they do bring in at running back, but who the hell knows who that is right now. So that's why they're more every 5 drafts for me, just because like theoretically I'm interested, but then when you get to the micro, I don't know. I don't know who I'm actually even really targeting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with them for every 5 drafts for now. Silas in the chat says that he's going to have too much nuke this year, and there's a chance that I do too.
They can only move up, though, to be clear. They're one where like this is the floor. This is the floor.
This is their absolute floor.
Yeah.
I'm interested in your San Francisco take because I am. So just say what it is, and I'll tell you my thoughts on them.
Wheels up. Give me stacks or give me death. It's Trey Lance season. I'm working on finishing up my 2022 rankings, and there will be. I would bet. Well, so I would bet 2 things. If the ADP weren't to change from what it is right now, I will have far too much Trey Lance, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, with very little Debo at current cost, and probably very little the running backs, unless maybe they re-sign Mostert or something. We'll see about that. But the Lance cost is totally great right now. It's not that different from what you were paying last year when like there was a strong chance he might not play the whole year. Now, like I said, I think this gets steamed. Ayuk has like fallen off the face of the earth, and Kittle went from a late 2nd round pick to like a 4th round pick. And so, but the fact that Trey Lance is now the starter and has the potential, right? He may suck. I talk about this all the time. I always try to make sure to caveat it. Like Trey Lance might just suck. It's possible that happens, but the physical tools that he has give this offense a ceiling that like borderline doesn't exist in the entire NFL. And so particularly with where you can get Lance, Ayuk, and Kittle right now, it's definitely they're up there with the Cowboys for me.
Okay, so you hit on like almost all of my points, especially with the cost of them right now. My caveat is I think San Fran is the team that gets steamed like crazy by everybody.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to want to get them immediately when you get them. Here's my other thing. I'm on give me stacks or give me death, but my asterisk is give me skinny stacks or give me death with them.
Yeah. Yep.
If I draft Lance, I only want one. I'm not trying to do a full onslaught of San Fran in a best ball setting. Now, over a course of a season, it might be well, but I think when you get to the finals, you're only going to want Lance with one of them. Yeah. So you're only going to want Lance Kittle. You're only going to want Lance Debo. You're only going to want Lance Ayuk. Because I think you're wasting roster spots in the finals and the playoffs when you have a full San Fran team. I could be wrong on that, but I think just the way that offense is going to run, the only way to play them is skinny stacks, but you attack them. You try to get them right now. And it, to your point, it might not even be Debo. You might be looking at Ayuk and Kittle for your skinny stacks. But for now, yeah, we can give me stacks or give me depth. And I can say that they could go down, but the only way they're going to go down is if their ADP gets out of control.
Totally agree.
Oh, fuck. I have to do the Seahawks.
You've gotten some of the shitty ones here.
All right. So I don't think Russell leaves. Right?
Oh, okay.
I don't think Russell leaves. I think we're going to, and I think it's going to get cleared up relatively fast. Where's he going to go? Like, I mean, Pittsburgh or Denver, I guess, would be for him. The problem is still Pete Carroll. They're still going to run the same offense that they're going to run. But to go to my San Fran point, I think you could have Russell skinny stacks because I think he's going to be cheap enough. I think DK is going to be cheap enough. I'm probably out on Lockett. I know he crushed again, but he's just one of those guys that I think is going to start to fall off, and I have nothing to base that on.
He's 29.
Yeah, and so I'm probably
30. He'll turn 30 at the beginning of next season.
Yeah, so he could lose a step, and once that guy loses a step, He doesn't have other tools.
Yeah.
Right. So I am probably I guess I'd be one off in most drafts if I can get DK at the right price. I'd probably be overweight on him, and I'd be fine with getting Russell and some third wide receiver for a skinny stack, or whoever's rolling out at tight end. But I'm not going out of my way for it, so I'd probably just say I'm one off in most drafts, knowing that if that one off is Russell, I'm taking somebody with him.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. I hope that doesn't sound like a cop out, but that's
no,
where
that's definitely not a cop out. Late D Eskridge, late whatever tight end. They're losing their tight ends, but they're free agents. They're not losing them. But I totally agree. One off in most drafts because I'm definitely going to want to be overweight DK Metcalf. The running back situation, we'll see. But what has been one of the most advantageous situations is like take the backup Seahawks running back like every year because Chris Carson is going to get hurt. If they bring back Penny, guess what? Penny's going to get hurt, and whoever So just keep taking the backup running back. Keep taking DK Metcalf. I agree with you. I like Russ, so I like that. I like that spot for them.
All right, and we're gonna cap it off with the Rams.
Rams are got to be the easiest stack, but don't go out of my way team. I feel like that exists.
Now that's based on cost, right?
That's based on cost. It's clearly a stack that we would like, but Cooper Kupp is going to be a top 3 pick. One of the top picks in all of drafts. And Stafford is a quarterback we like in fantasy, but at the end of the day, is still a pocket passer, right? Mm-hmm. That is really, really, really going to be dependent on big touchdown games in order to give you the spike weeks. But there's really nothing we can say negatively about the Rams offense. Robert Woods is going to be back, and he's probably one of the best values in all of drafts right now. And I talked about it on Friday that he was going at the same spot as Cooper Kupp, a lot of the times ahead of Cooper Kupp last year, which I thought was egregious. Again, one of the few things I got right was Kupp over Bobby Trees.
Oh, great.
And we'll see if it is my storm hitting you at the same time. No, maybe. But Robert Woods now going in the 7th round or something like that when he was a 3-4 turn pick, and really nothing has changed. I expect that he'll be fine. They can't really go anywhere else. They can't let him go and go to another wide receiver. So anyway, Higbee will be fine. Akers will be fine. So stack, but don't. They're definitely either 2 or 3, but stack, but don't go out of my way for me.
Yeah, it's all the ADP based because you want Rams. You want to get you're gonna. They fit into every category on this, but depending on how your draft goes, because you want some sort of piece of this offense. So, I'm stacked, but don't get out of my way. I can't imagine they're going to get up to the Cowboys and San Fran level based on ADP because I think it'll just go out of control. But something could affect that, and maybe they do get up there. But for now, I think that's exactly where they go.
But they might have similar, we were talking about floor ceiling. They might have a one-off in most drafts floor, but they're just it's a high floor, low ceiling on this list. Not as players, but on this list, there's really only so many places they can fit because like you said, cost prohibits them from getting to the top, but how good they are prohibits them from getting to the bottom.
Right. Cool, man. So that does it for the AFC. We'll hit the NFC next week and probably do it a little faster than we did tonight, but I had to tell my story about the barbershop, so that's on me. Who didn't want to know that my eyebrows got shaved?
We had to talk about how I had a Rams blog when I was 19 years old, and how you got your eyebrow shaved at the barbershop, and all that stuff's very important, way more important than stuff that people care about listening to. The listeners got better as the show went on. If that's any sign of how people care about our past.
Listen, if you guys need to talk about eyebrows being shaved, feel free to DM me. We will have this conversation.
So, Mark, thank you for watching, Mark.
We're going to be getting out of here, but what I want to announce right now is we are going to be doing a giveaway for Spike Week, and I have 2 items that we're going to be giving away. So talk to the people for 1 second, Eric, while I grab them, and I'll explain it at that point.
Go for it. So, Rob is blessing us with. My dogs are getting excited for the giveaway, but Rob is going to be giving away some very fun items to folks who subscribe to the Spike Week YouTube, as well as his other YouTube that he will mention to you here in a second. All right, go for it.
All right, we were just talking about how handsome I was.
Yeah, that was it.
That's what I figured. All right, so we are going to give away a couple of signed jerseys, and all you have to do to be eligible for this is you need to be subscribed to the Spike Week YouTube, and you also have to be subscribed to the Hometown Ghost Stories YouTube. So if you just, all you have to do is click a button twice. That's all you guys have to do. And what we're going to be giving away first, once we hit 600 likes on Spike Week, or 600 subs, sorry, we have a Jalen Mills signed Philadelphia Eagles. It's a stitched Nike jersey with the Super Bowl patch from the Super Bowl year. And once we get to 850 subs, I will give away this Tua signed Nike jersey. It's not stitched. It is a screen printed one, but it's still a Nike jersey. They both have reputable certs. Trust me, I have quite a bit of memorabilia, so I know that they're authentic. So that's the deal. You got to follow both of those. I will put together a Google Doc for next week so that you can sign up for it. Those are the two rules. Follow both of those channels, Spike Week, and subscribe to Hometown Ghost Stories. And the other thing is, if you do put your name in twice, you will be disqualified. And because that happens a lot. I'm friends with Mike Zakarian. If any of you watch Top Shot, watch his stuff, and I've seen it happen on his. And if you watched me do a stream with Pete, Overzet earlier in the year, well, I guess last year now, I gave away a jersey on that stream, and the first person that got picked for it did not follow the rules and did not follow myself or Pete, so I had to draw another winner. So I do take it seriously, and I do want you all to win. That frame is not coming with the Tua jersey unless you live in my area and I can hand deliver it. So that's where we're looking at here.
All right. So next week we'll get even more information on that, and obviously another episode two. I'm making Rob bring on not just me. You guys will get to talk to way smarter people than me on this show, but you get to see Rob's shaved eyebrow every week.
Never again.
Week here. Yeah, never again. Anything else before we get out of here that you got?
No, I have to go film for an episode this Sunday in Vermont, and now I have shaved eyebrows, and I am upset about it.
Yeah.
So,
all right, guys.
No, so we'll run this back next week. We'll hit the AFC side. We'll hit some of the NFL news, and we will see you guys then.
So yeah. My dog is coming in here he wanted to hit the button. I think he wanted to hit the button.
Let him do it.
Yeah.
Peace out.